If you're looking at moving to Lancaster County, then there are plenty of options in the $600,000 range. Whether you're relocating from more expensive states like New York or New Jersey, or even wanting to make a move up from Texas. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 4 different types of property that you can expect to buy in the $600,000 range, how much the monthly payment is going to be, and roughly how much cash you need to close in order to purchase. Starting things off, we have a very traditional colonial home. This is 5 Village Drive in Lititz, one of the more popular areas. It's about 15 minutes drive from Lancaster City itself, and it does tend to have more of these affluent neighborhoods. This 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom property over 2,400 square feet was built in 1994, but has been renovated in the past 5 years. Now, unfortunately, if you are used to new construction in places like Texas, it's not quite going to feel like that. However, when you get up into that $600,000 range, you tend to get much better homes that have been looked after. You must have a couple of nice features like the cathedral ceilings in the primary bedroom. And this one, although it doesn't have a huge yard, does actually have an above ground pool. So for $600,000, you're getting a decent home in a popular area with nice level of finish. Now, these homes in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s neighborhoods can be a really great place to be able to purchase a home with slightly lower property taxes than some of the new construction ones of a similar price. For example, the property taxes on this one are $5,000. If you're building something in Elizabethtown, it's probably going to be more than $600,000, but the taxes are likely to be in the sort of $8,000 to $10,000 range. Second up, a little bit of a different one, still in Lititz, however, it's a little bit more rural. This is actually a farmhouse that was built in 1875. It's on 5.5 acres of land. And what's nice about this one is they actually have recently, again, renovated. You've got a nice metal roof, you've got new siding, you're getting a lot more land, you're getting a lot more character. You will see as you go up in the price range, you get a lot more options than just your traditional cookie cutter home or your townhomes in Lancaster City. I do think they haven't done the best of showing off the land on this particular property. I know it has 5.5 acres, but it's very difficult to tell from the photos where they are. Property taxes are more in line with what I would expect to see on a property like this, around $7,500. And one thing just to note quickly is if you get a property that has over 10 acres in Lancaster, you can typically apply for something called clean and green, which gives you much better tax advantages. And I'll put a link to that video up here. Property number 3, and we are over in Denver, so a little bit further away from Lancaster City. This is a 6-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom ranch house on 2 acres. So again, what's nice is you get many different options of the type of property. So there is going to be something for everyone in this price point. This is a nicely updated rancher, so built in 1950, but clearly either someone's come in and flipped it or someone was living there recently. A nice new kitchen, beautifully staged. And again, you get nice amount of land when you get up to this price point. So 2 acres, nice new finishes, ready to move in. Ranches are or ranch style properties are incredibly desirable in Lancaster County. And especially in this price point, as you would expect, they have gone and done nice upgrades. Like this is probably a $1,200 vanity. And they've also gone for a nice tile shower as well. Things to watch out for though will still be, even if it feels nicely renovated on the inside, making sure that the foundation has also been taken care of. The roof, the HVAC, a client of mine recently purchased a property that they've done all of the inside, but they haven't touched the HVAC and the roof. So they know that in the next 3 to 5 years, they're probably going to be spending $20,000 to $25,000 on upgrading those as well. So this confirms that it was a flip. They actually bought it 4 months ago. It looks like they put a lot of money into this home. So we'll see. It'd be interesting to see what this actually sells for. But if they bought it for under 300, they'd probably put maybe even 200 into it. Keep an eye on something like this to see what it may actually even sell for. They don't have the taxes on this. I probably estimate them being around $6,000 to $7,500 right now. If they are lower, it's likely that if it has been flipped, they are going to go up in the next year or 2. And finally, Lancaster City. So there are some really nice pockets of Lancaster. This is on State Street. This is, again, definitely one of the more popular streets. You get a lot more space. It's a detached property. And space is relative, right? Compared to 2 acres in the woods, it's definitely not going to be the same as that. However, you do get a decent sized backyard. You get a lot of character. You do get some garages as well. What I love about the homes in Lancaster City is the character. So yeah, are they a lot to maintain? Absolutely. But if you can get something like this, really good open spaces, has tons of character. And again, you are looking for ones that have at least had the major mechanicals updated. So make sure that there's no knob and tube wiring, that it has central air if possible. It can be very expensive to have things like central air put into a home. However, when you're in that price bracket, you're usually going to have central air. Another great feature about this is that you're very close to the college, which is great for walking around. There are a bunch of restaurants and shops on Harrisburg Ave, and you're only about a 15 to 20-minute walk from downtown Lancaster, as well as bars and other things like that. Central Market is around this area here. Prime location, really great if you want the kind of culture of downtown life with the Fulton Theater, but you're also very close to the main shopping centers over here as well. You also have great access to Route 30, so very easy to get to Philadelphia and to York, Pennsylvania. Now, one of the trade-offs is that the taxes are going to be higher. There are going to be $10,000 on this property. So you see, we've seen quite a range. First property taxes were $5,000. These are $10,000. So I would budget for around $7,500 for taxes in a property of this price range. Now let's break it down and go through those numbers of what is that monthly payment going to look like. I'm going to look at 20% down, 10% down, and 3% down. Typically, I find buyers in this price point are putting 20% down because they're either rolling equity in from another property or they have decent income from another state and they have managed to save up the money to put the deposit down. So looking at a $600,000 purchase price, 20% down with excellent credit. I'm using the national average. You may be able to get a little bit lower than this, depending if you want to buy down points and stuff like that. But let's use 6.5% interest rate. Taxes, I've set them at around $625 a month. So in that kind of $7 a year range. Homeowners, it will range, but it doesn't tend to be crazy unless you have a pool or a very, very old home. So I'd budget for somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 a year, unless you happen to be in a flood zone or have things like a pool. HOA and fees, again, some communities will have them. I'm not going to put that in for the purposes of this one, but I would say, probably looking for a payment around about $3,000 in interest. You got your property taxes of $625 a month, and then homeowners of around $100. That's going to bring your monthly payment up to $3,772. Now, if you're putting 10% down, obviously a lot less cash to close. However, your payment is going to jump up to $4,300. You will also be paying something called mortgage insurance as well. If you're not familiar with that, that just means that it's an additional payment or insurance that you pay to the bank for when you have less than 20% down on the property, because the bank sees you as a higher risk. And then finally, 3% down. So again, bankers can see you as an even higher risk. So your mortgage insurance is likely to be more expensive. It's also very dependent on what your credit score is. If your credit score is low 600s, it could easily be $400 or $500 a month for your mortgage insurance, versus if you're in those sort of high 7s or low 8s, it's going to be far more affordable. Payments coming out to be around $4,600. So again, taxes, insurance the same. The private mortgage insurance is a little bit higher, and your principal and interest is about $600 a month more. All in all, for a $600,000 home, you're probably looking somewhere between $3,500 a month up to about $4,500. Maybe $5,000 a month if it happens to be a very high tax property and you're putting less than 10 or 20% down. And finally, let's break down the estimated cash to close you're going to need to be able to purchase one of these properties. I'm going to run numbers off this one in Lititz because it's right at that $600,000 range and the taxes was $7,500. So I think this is the best estimate of what a home is likely to cost you. Plugging all that into the spreadsheet, we've got the purchase price of just under $600,000. Interest rate of 6.5%, the annual taxes of $7,400, conventional 20% down. I've also tried to include some fees like your mortgage origination fees, some discount points, appraisal. I've also put some additional buyer agent commission in case you can't get all of it covered by the seller, homeowners insurance. Anyway, so I've tried to include a few fees to make it more representative of what it actually will cost you. So all in on this property, if you're doing 20% down, your estimated cash to close is going to be just under $150,000. The payment is also right there at $3,750 a month. And again, depending on if there's any HOA or condo fees, it could fluctuate a little bit, but I think this is going to be a pretty good ballpark. Now, with the more expensive properties that have higher taxes, this can change quite a lot. The school taxes in Lancaster run from July to June. So for example, if you're buying a home now in July and August, the homeowners have just paid their taxes, which means you're basically going to have to repay them for all the way through to next year. And you'll have to put more in escrow as well. So basically you'll find that it can be $5,000 or $6,000 more expensive to purchase a home than it would be in May or June. If you're doing 10% down, that cash to close is going to drop dramatically down to about $90,000 or $88,000 in this case. Estimated payment is going to jump up to $4,250. That's because we've got that higher principal and interest balance, and also you've got mortgage insurance. And then finally, 3% down. So this is probably the minimum you're going to be able to put down on a property like this. Your payment is going to be around $4,600. Your cash to close is going to be around $50,000, and your estimated payment is going to be around $4,600. The wonderful thing about being at this price point is that there are so many different options for you. Whether you want to have something with character down in central Lancaster, if you want a typical colonial home over there in Lititz, or maybe you want to have your own farm. There are also less people competing at this price point. However, what I would say is that the people that are competing do tend to have more money. The market still moves pretty quickly, so homes that are priced correctly are going to be selling in the sort of 7 to 14 day range. If you're looking at getting yourself a bit of a deal, then look at homes that have been on the market for longer than 30 days. And if you are thinking about making the move to Lancaster, then click this video where I talk about what it's like to live in Lancaster. Or if you want to stretch that budget a little bit more and maybe see, what could I get for $750,000? That's where things really start to get exciting.